Hello, everyone. Welcome to Nevada Women's Film Festival, Program 8 Live Q&A. My name is Veronica Castillo, and running behind the scenes, I also have my partner, Jemsen Yumico Bollozos, who's also the tech producer running Eventive and Zoom. Both of us are co-founders of Eccentric Artists and working as the festival's executive committee this year. So without further ado, I would love to introduce our moderator for today. Danette is the Film Resource Coordinator for Nevada Film Office. Danette's work focuses primarily in the area of public and community relations. However, her passion for the local community keeps her involved in all aspects of the operations. Working closely with major productions, Danette directly has a hand in films, television series, and commercials featuring Las Vegas and Nevada, driving economic benefits, tourism, and promoting our state. Welcome, Danette, and thank you. So I'll be glad to have you take over, and we'll see you in a little bit.
Thank you, Veronica. Of course, I'm going to plug Nevada. I don't know if you guys caught that, but if any of you would like to film your next project in our Silver State, that's what I'm here for. I'm more than happy to help you guys bring production out west. So yes, I'm Danette Tull, and with me, I'm just going to go sort of in a random order. I have Deb Richards, whose film is Dark Lights. Hello, Deb. I have Jade Hoffman and Mariam Chirino, who are together with the film Genie-ous. I have Philip Shane, Anais, Michel, is that right? Sorry. And where's my screen? Jade, Doskow, Benjamin, Fernando, Louise, and Lambert are all together. It's a family affair today for the film Photography of Lost Utopias. And we have Ashton, Avila, and Andrea Laing with the film Lake Forest Road. I think I covered everybody. Thank you guys all for being here. So just first off, I'm just going to go in order of sort of like the films I mentioned. Deb, what was your influence behind Dark Lights? I could be wrong, but I feel like there was sort of a Blade Runner vibe. Maybe.
It's funny you say that. I mean, I was a child of the 80s, so definitely 80s influenced me, but it's funny because the original concept of Blade Runner, or the theme, was do androids dream of electric sheep, and that kind of inspired me, and I twisted it around, and the initial theme of Dark Lights was do monsters have bad dreams? So it was inspired from thematically, but then I think just the look and vibe and feel is just in my bones, because that's the that's the age that I discovered everything.
Right. And how did you find the lead actress? She was great.
Oh, thanks. I actually cast her without ever meeting her. I just saw a photo on Instagram, and it just turned out that my roommate was friends with her, and I convinced her to do it. And she was a performer at Cirque du Soleil Love, which has since closed down, unfortunately. But I knew she'd be a great performer because she's had that theatrical experience.
Yeah, that was great. Ashton, you are a returning vet of this film festival, and I feel like this film actually is a little bit of a departure, if I'm not mistaken, from your last film that was I Got You, Babe, that we saw. How did that come about? Were you just wanting to do something different?
It's actually funny. I was very excited to be in this festival again. I love this festival so much. And actually I knew after I Got You, Babe, I wanted to try doing something different. I really wanted to try doing a horror film. That was my goal. And I actually met the writer of Lake Forest Road at a mixer at the film festival the year I was there for I Got You, Babe.
Really?
And he kind of pitched me the idea, and so he wrote the script, and then we went and shot it. So it started with me just wanting to make something fun, like a fun little horror film, and then met him, got the idea, and then we went and shot in Rhode Island. I was there teaching I teach at University of Rhode Island, and then Anne came in from Atlanta to help us make it, and yeah,
how did how did you two find each other? I really liked your performance, Andrea. I thought it was amazing. Yeah, how did you guys connect together? Like, how was that casting process, or how did you find each other?
It was just from Two Roads, right?
Mm-hmm. We had shot a pilot. I cast Andrea in a pilot that I was shooting for PlayStation in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. And she was brilliant in that, and I knew I wanted to work with her again. So when this came up, I wanted a group of fun people that I knew could like work with the students as well and understand what we were trying to do. But also I wanted brilliant actors because I wanted the process to be, you know, if the students were learning, I wanted a cast who knew what they were doing. And so Andrea came to mind and she was available.
Now, did you also, forgive me, but did you write the screenplay for this one, Ashton?
For this one, no. So
No,
this
okay.
one was written by Richard, who I met at the festival mixer.
And I noticed like your both your movies had driving scenes with cars, and I just wonder, did you have any challenges? Was that on location? Obviously, it looked like on location filming to me, but anytime you have cars and roads, and walk me through how's Rhode Island?
Yeah, that's great memory. I mean, that was my second vintage car interior driving poor man's process. And I don't think I realized I have so many things filmed in cars until we were on
like,
set.
I love it.
And then I was filming and I was like, oh, this seems very familiar. It's a different genre, but the same thing, 4 people in a car all arguing with each other.
Yeah, it kind of ramped my anxiety. I wanted to hate the characters so badly in the backseat. I was like, would that guy just stop it? And it was just,
yeah.
It was very, very well done and very well executed. So, but I'll come back to you because I want another question about something else.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah, Jay, I love your new take on Genie-ous. And, all of us, I don't know, I can't speak for everyone, but I wouldn't mind having a genie come out the bottle like that. How did you come up with the idea for that?
So I I actually wrote that like waking up from a nap because I had a dream about the garage sale pit that's in the film, if any of you have seen it. And then it kind of just like downhill spiraled from there when I wrote more drafts of it. I ended up, someone pointed out to me that the 2 characters were like identical to the relationship of me and one of my best friends who actually also has a film in this festival. But yeah, it just spiraled after the first draft. And people were throwing ideas of like, this weird thing should be in the film and this should be in the film. And I was like, everyone's gonna get a say.
Yeah. And so are you guys all students, you and Mariam and everyone else on that film, were you all students at UNLV at the time, or?
At the time we were all CSN students. No, it's okay. That was in October 2019 is when we started filming it. The actors weren't students. They were all friends that I had or actors that I knew from other sets that I was on. But yeah, we were students at the time.
Well, they did an amazing job. And Mariam looked like you guys just had a blast like filming it. I almost enjoyed the outtakes more, if not equal to the actual film, especially your lip gloss, your lip gloss comment. I was like, that's hysterical. So did you have a good time? It looked like you guys just had a great time filming this.
Definitely. Just especially the fact that it didn't feel like a typical actor-director relationship, just because I was on set with all of my friends, and anytime we needed to do a retake, they were pretty lenient about that stuff, and they were super fun to be around. So it didn't feel like I was working. It just felt like I was there with my friends and we were filming our everyday life.
Yeah, you could tell you guys just had fun together, and that there was a rapport that came through. So for the team for Jade Doskow's film, how did you, first of all, amazing film, amazing work, the photography and all that, just it blew me away. And it's how did you come up with the whole idea of documenting these lost utopias and how the making this art out of it, and how did this, is that something you've been working on for a while, or how did this come to be?
Well, a while ago, I was actually traveling in Spain and Portugal with my mother and sister. And we were in Seville, just kind of typically doing the tourist stuff. And the tour bus brought us to the mostly abandoned site of the 1992 World's Fair. And I thought that was rather strange that the tour bus would bring us to this place. There were, fountains filled with beer bottles and acres of overgrown canals and a rocket ship sticking out of weeds. It was very strange. And it just captured my interest immediately. And at that point, I'd been focusing on photographing my neighborhood in Brooklyn, Red Hook, which was this kind of, very magical, semi-abandoned neighborhood of old shipping warehouses that had fallen out of use. So I was thinking a lot of architecture that had kind of outlived its original purpose, and to see this very futuristic architecture that was totally, in disrepair and in this other state of being really drew me in. And a few years later, I was in graduate school for photography, and you have to have a thesis project, etc. So I thought, you know what, I want to dive into this. And I did. And most of my professors were like, you are crazy. This is much too big a project to take on for a graduate school thesis, right? And I just ran with it, and was shooting for about 12 years. And Philip and I made contact like kind of right in the middle of the whole project, at a pretty ripe point of making work.
That's awesome. I was going to ask which was easier, this or having a baby, but I probably won't ask it. I just thought they're both like, really laborious and take a while and everything. The question, maybe this is for the editor. I'm not sure who is involved, but I noticed the nuance of the sort of the background soundtrack that was happening. There's like this percussive thing at the beginning, and then it sort of shifts, and I felt like that really lent this cool vibe to the film as I was watching the visuals. And how did you guys come up with what kind of music and when that was going to happen in the film?
That's Anais.
I mean, yeah, I think, well, I'm from France, so first I think I wanted to give it a little European touch. I don't know if it feels
it
like
did, it definitely did.
Yeah. And then I guess for me, it was really this tension between work and family. I felt like Jade was really in between these two things, and she was really at times struggling with her, like dividing her time between work and having a kid, having a partner. And so I think this is what I tried to show with the music.
Yeah, no, it definitely came through. And another thing that struck me was just the teamwork, the sort of behind the scenes of the making of, as you can see, that scene where it's raining. You just keep saying like, no, your umbrella, and just like that whole team of people that just keeps following you around. I really enjoyed sort of seeing that part of it, and also the support of your husband and your son. And one thing in particular that really struck me was when you commented on someone saying to you, I think it was a professor, don't ever have a kid, it will destroy your career.
Yes.
Something that maybe many of women filmmakers here, of childbearing age or whatever, or someone who's deciding on starting a family. It's astonishing to me that people would make that comment, and that those comments are made. Like, what did you say? What are you? Do you have a rebuttal now that this film is finished? And like.
Yeah, well, it's like I continue to make a huge amount of work all the time, and it's funny, I was in my 20s when I was working for that photographer, and photography is finally, like so many other fields, coming to a reckoning with the fact that no, it wasn't just a bunch of white men who have made great photographs all these years. And yes, people can have children and have a really, you don't have to be a wealthy white man who can travel nonstop to make great work. You can fit into many other categories. And
we can multitask, you don't have to be pigeonholed.
So, and now that guy just had a child, so whatever. Not that he actually had one.
Did it ruin his career? I mean, come on.
Exactly. But women artists have also said this. In a documentary about a very well-known performance artist, she basically says, women, you can't, there's no chance of you having a career if you have children, and it's infuriating that women and men over the years have had that.
Yeah, I agree with you. But I'm going to go back to Ashton for a second, and then I'm going to circle back to Deb. This one's more about sort of like the SFX portions of your film. That creature, Ashton, at the end, wow. That was amazing. Like, it was just like, who made that? Who came up with this idea of this thing that was super effective, by the way. And it was one of those things where, less is more, and then all of a sudden the film ends and you're like, oh my God, what happened? It just leaves you like kind of stressed out. But tell me about that thing.
Yeah, so I knew the creature was going to be in it, and I know, especially the screenwriter and I, when we talked about what the creature was, is we wanted something that is a little bit non-threatening at first. Like, you don't think it's really dangerous, and the car hits the creature, so technically the villain here is the car and the kids who are driving it. And then for me, I know it was important. I said I wanted kind of that ET vibe of like, maybe this is, you know, Kyle, the character, feel like he can approach the alien and
I definitely got that. I
be-
got that.
yeah. And so those were kind of my only things going into it. And I talked to actually Adam, who played Rick in the backseat of the car, the tall guy with the curly hair. I said, could you help me come up with the design? Because he's an artist too. And him and our makeup artist, Celeste, who's phenomenal, they got together and they talked about what the creature's body would look like and what its head would look like. And so Celeste really took on the special effects makeup of the head and getting the prosthetics and everything. And then Adam took on creating the body that we would put on the creature. And so days before we prepped that, and one of the students we were working with, his name is Lionel, and he played our alien, and he was just phenomenal because he also, it was somewhat of a like, and I've read this about other productions too, like a sensory deprivation situation, because he couldn't see, he had holes just so he could hear. And then he had this latex bodysuit basically, in this latex mask. And so we just kind of had to like feel it out. But yeah, it was, you know, special effects makeup mixed with costume, and the design really by Celeste and Adam, who were phenomenal.
Yeah, it was super effective. I went straight from, oh, how cute, oh, to like, oh my God, you know, like, no, God, get it away from me. So it was like, I got exactly what you were doing.
Perfect.
Like, oh, how cute, I want to go pet it, to like, oh shit, you know. No.
Yeah, we wanted it to feel kind of like that non-threatening way. And then, you know, at the end too, like it's still that question of who's the villain in the situation. You know, they hit the alien first. But
right. Yeah, who's like, what's going on? Yeah, I thought that was really cool. Deb, your special effects always blow me away on all of your films. I feel like you have a sort of a style. I don't want to say like pigeonholing you, but I feel like your films have a certain style with the way that you show that. How do you do that? Like sort of inside the body, you know, the camera traveling through the organs or neurosystems or whatever it was. How do you?
I've always been a fan of when VFX, I think VFX or special effects are most effective when it's a combination of practical effects augmented with VFX. So that's kind of where I start, and just let my imagination go wild.
Yeah, no, it's super effective because you feel like you're traveling, you know, like a cell, you know, traveling through the body or whatever. So I always enjoyed that about your films. And was this a precursor or a prequel to another film that we talked about, or that you were?
Right. So I was trying to get a feature film made with the same name, and I just couldn't get across the pitch properly to people. And I got so fed up trying to raise the money that I did a proof of concept. And instead of getting the story from the feature film and shrinking it down, instead of doing that, which is not effective for a short, I just did a kind of character study of one of the main, the protagonists from the feature. And that was the, you know, idea behind the short. But
so it works as a pitch reel.
Yeah, the script itself wasn't very strong. It was only like 4 pages, and I knew it wasn't strong. So I committed early on. I knew, like, if the story's not strong, at least give them visually something really pretty to look at. So
I thought it was great. I thought it was great in that aspect. Back to Jade's team. I'm addressing you as a team because there's a lot here. But the camera that you were using, Jade, to document those photographs, what kind of camera? How did you learn that? It's so cool and like so vintage. I was like, dude, this is awesome. Like a whole like another movie, like following you around using that camera again. Like I just thought it was cool.
So that's a large format 4x5 film camera. So it's the same kind of camera that was first used in the 19th century when camera was photography was first invented. So I've been working almost exclusively with that kind of camera for about 12 years now. And I first learned.
Are you self-taught on it, or how did you?
Yes and no. No, well, I first took a class on it in undergrad many years ago, and it was a studio large format class, and I was like, no way am I ever gonna use that camera. That's crazy.
Right.
And then when I started the World's Fair project, I realized it was the only way to really capture the complexity of these sites and to accurately show, accurately render perspective and architecture. So basically, I really had barely used that kind of camera, and I bought 400 sheets of film. The film sheets are like about this big, and went off to Europe for 5 weeks with my sister as my assistant and started the project. And actually, some of the pictures you see in the film are from that very first 5 weeks in Europe. So
like, I don't even know, where do you buy the film for that? I'm just like amazed they still have like this thing around. And you know, you really made the, you know, I look at architecture and I go, oh, you know, it's a pretty building and that looks really cool. I appreciate architecture, but the way that you shot them, and at the end when they're mounting those pieces, and they're going through and showing piece by, you know, yeah, it's photographed like a person, like the way it's lit, and it's coming like out with its own personality, and it was just so beautiful. Like I never thought that I would appreciate buildings in that way. So I appreciate, you know, you opening my eyes to that. And the other thing I thought as an employee of the Film Commission was, wow, what are they doing with all these abandoned buildings, and what great film locations?
Yes. Oh, they're amazing. They're
like,
amazing.
oh my God, like
yeah.
where, you know, like our Nevada's not very like old enough. We have our ghost towns, but I mean, some of those places are super cool. And what are they, what's the deal? Are you working with like preservation societies to keep them around, or what, who's doing what with those buildings now? Do you know?
It's so all over the map, and every city treats every site completely differently. So there is no rhyme or reason to any of it, which was what kept me coming back to these sites. It's, you know, I go to St. Louis and it's totally different than Montreal, and it's totally different than Paris, you know. Especially I feel like in America, there's not such a sense of antiquity, you could say. So people really don't know how to deal with, okay, this is 100 years old, is it worth keeping? Or is it disposable architecture? What do we do with it? So there's a lot of question marks about how to treat any of these places.
Is it difficult for you to get permissions on some of those? I mean, it looked like some of the things are just sitting there and you just walked up and started like, hey, let's take a picture of that. I mean, I don't know, I'm probably oversimplifying the process, but except for,
well, I'll tell you, there's two things working in my favor. One is being a woman, because you know, I could kind of go wherever I want and people are like, oh, cool.
Yeah, like cool.
So
like,
males.
Not threatening, walking, leering around.
And then also, you know, using that kind of equipment gives me a certain latitude that a more traditional kind of camera does not offer. So even when I was first starting out, I was on a site in Belgium, in Brussels, and it was right by the, you know, the buildings that house the EU. And so this Belgian police officer pulls up to me and I thought, oh no, great, I'm getting kicked out, right? And he starts rattling off in French how much he loves my camera equipment and it's so magnificent and da 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 da. So I mean, just, you know, using that kind of equipment does give me a certain access that.
I mean, super just conversational, like just seeing you with that thing over, like, you know, like what is going on? Like, I mean, literally, what century is this? And like, it's just, I mean, it's just amazing that the stuff you were able to you know, capture with that. What's next for all of you? I'll start with Jay and Mariam. Are you guys going to make another film together? What are you thinking?
I have been working a lot, and I have a script that I really want to get going with. It would be more of like it's a horror, but it's also a dance number, and it's like a 3-minute film that I just really want to do. I've had the idea since just before the pandemic, and I have some things like in the works for it now. I have a choreographer, I have an actress. I'd love for Mariam to be there. I've told her already, like, I want people on the set because there's only one character in the film, but I just want people around and see it happen. So I just need to get moving forward with that soon, but yeah, that's what I have going right now.
Mariam, are you gonna, you have any inspiration or bug to get behind the camera, or you want to stay in front of it?
I love being in front of the camera, but I've also kind of found a newfound love for being behind it, just because you never really know what goes on behind the scenes, as, you know, like weird as it is to say, but yeah, I mean, I just like having more of a vision, and then having that vision being sought through all the way, instead of just being in front of the camera where you're kind of like projecting somebody else's vision.
Yeah, no, I thought you did a great job. I mean, you made it look easy and everything. So I was just like, wow, out of the box. I thought you did a great job. Philip and Anais and Jade. Is there a follow-up or part 2 to this film, or working on some abandoned other things that are abandoned?
Yes.
Really?
Can you tell them about your next?
I can, yeah. So since I kind of wound down the Lost Utopias project and kind of just organically came into another gigantic project, I'm now the photographer in residence for Fresh Kills Park in New York City. And I know a lot of you, probably all of you, are not in New York. Fresh Kills was New York City's largest garbage dump for 53 years, covering 2,200 acres of New York City, which is a ton of space in our town.
Wow.
And they decided to close the dump in the late 90s and they developed a 30-year master plan to turn it into one of New York's greatest public wilderness parks. So it's this amazing place that's extremely surreal and very optimistic, I think, in this time of environmental catastrophe. So Philip's come with me a few times now, and I've been working there almost 3 years now using the big camera, and the first exhibition of that work will open in September. So it's become the next, so I kind of had Lost Utopias to Lost Dystopia, you could say.
Wow, that sounds amazing. I look forward to seeing that one when it comes out. Anais, are you working on anything? Or you got any other projects coming up? Anything in France or America?
Actually, so I'm still editing for Philip. Philip has a new documentary feature about a video game called Myst. And also I'm co-directing my first feature-length documentary about the Venezuelan migration crisis. So it's in Latin America.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And you just came back from a big trip there.
Big trip, yeah. I just spent
in the middle of everything that's going on.
Yeah, I just spent 6 weeks in Colombia. I just came back.
That's amazing. I bet that's a whole documentary, just having your camera on, walking around there. It's just like documenting your travel through that area.
Yeah, I should do that.
Ashton, are you going to stay with this genre, or are you going to try something else?
So right now, I mean, I spent a lot of quarantine really writing, sadly not as much in production. And what I've learned about myself is I don't like to stick to one genre, but I really love coming of age stories. So right now I'm working on like a YA rom-com, and pretty much I have, ideas and projects I'm working on with friends where I always just find myself working with coming of age, whether it's teenagers or like young adults figuring themselves out. I unfortunately do not have a project to plug right now or anything for the next thing, but I know that like for the sake of networking and, filmmakers who are at this festival, I guess to plug this writers community, it's a writer-director community that I found called sandbox.la. And it's just a group of writers who meet on Zoom once a week and hold each other accountable. And we write our projects and cheer each other on when you do go into production, and then cheer each other on through the festival. So like, if anyone is interested in that, and that's where I've met some of the amazing actors that were in my film or in other films I've done. So if anyone, more so I guess plug a community as opposed to just having a next project, but I will let you know as soon as I have my next project.
Okay, no, sounds great. Look forward to it. What are you doing next, Deb? I'm sorry. Your squares, I swear, your squares are like literally moving around, like as you are. You like went from here to here, and then like Philip went over here. Okay, sorry, Deb.
Yeah, so I'm directing my feature film directorial debut in September. It's a thriller set here in Vegas. It's a $200,000 budget. So it's a big deal for me. I recently won a full scholarship to Sundance Collab. So I'm currently workshopping the movie through their 9-week directorial workshop lab. So that's a lot of fun. And we're in talks with Denise Richards and Heather Graham. So
Love it.
it's a big deal
Yay.
for me. So it's pretty exciting.
It's so awesome.
So long days, lots of meetings, and Zooms at like 5 in the morning with many people from Dubai, or 7 in the morning with people from England. So
Oh, wow. I mean, it's filmmaking takes a special kind of person with a lot of energy and time, and just it seems very grueling. I don't think I could do it. I don't know.
It's amazing how many people it takes just to get it to this point. I mean, I feel like once we start the cameras rolling, that's the easy bit.
Yeah, I'm going to ask another question for all of you, and I know that the answer might be a little bit different for the documentary. But what are some of the most difficult parts, I mean, of the process? Is it like, what are some of the challenges you find? I'm sure we talked, I had a conversation, I said last night that someone said filmmaking was just a series of problem solving. It's just one problem after the next problem. And you're just constantly solving problems. And I just want to know how you overcome that. What are some of the typical challenges you face in making all the films that we saw, and how you rectify the situations? I'm going to start with Jay and Mariam.
I definitely think it's like a series of problem solving, especially for us. It was 2 years ago, and like we've all come so far now, but that was when we were students and we were still learning and all of that. So it was a lot of just learning in the moment, problem solving in the moment, and now like we know how to do it in the future. There was so many problems the first week that went great throughout the rest of the production. We shot in the car scene was the first scene that we shot, and we were going to do all the car scenes from the film that day. And then I'm going to tell the story. Mariam might sue me after, but she initially was the one driving. The other main actress was the one driving in the film. The very first day that we were filming, Miss Mariam ended up hitting another one of the cars with the car that we were using in the film. And so after that, we were like, we're gonna switch drivers for the rest of the film. But it was hilarious after that. Like, it wasn't hilarious for her, but for us, it was really funny. But yeah, we just all learned at the same time, and I think after that, we all ended up growing a lot more and all working on more films together and learning, and it was great.
Yeah, for Philip and Jade, and then I'll separately ask Anais about the editing process. But your guys' film seems like you rolled with it, except for like the weather mishaps. But then it seems like you were able to use that, to your advantage. And I love that. How it was just like, it's raining. That was one of my favorite parts. I mean, what other challenges aside from, I don't know, what other challenges did you guys face with making yours?
Well, it's funny you mentioned the weather, because I would say, yeah, absolutely, that was a good thing. It was, and I must say, it wasn't just like, oh, it's something cinematic, which rain is,
Yeah.
But problems are reveal character, and Jade was mentioning how she gets permission, perhaps because she's a woman or whatever. But I think part of it is, a big part of it actually, is her courage. Like, we all saw that when it was raining, and then you can actually hear a friend of mine who was helping her says, well, we're not supposed to go in there, and Jade is just like unabashed, like, well, let's go see. And she just walked right up, and there's an office, and it says no admittance, and it's whatever. She goes in there, she comes out with a chair, stands on. Anyway, that was amazing. But I wouldn't skip Anais actually with that question, because I would say that it's editing.
Yes, I was going to say, you have how many hours of footage did you guys collect for this film, Anais?
I think it was around 50. Am I right? Or
that's about right. Yeah,
hours that you have to reduce to 30 minutes. So that's a lot of hours of work. But I think it went. Actually, I don't feel that I had any big main issues. Because Philip was such a great director. Really, Philip is a director, but he's also been a fantastic editor for a very long time. So I had a great guide to help me.
So you didn't have like a bunch of footage where you were like, oh, this is excruciating and I can't choose what should make it. And it was easy because his eyes were.
I've been there, and no one should suffer that. So
that is
stop that.
No, that was flowing pretty nicely. I really enjoyed working on this film. And by the way, I just have to say, it's the first time I'm actually meeting Jade, because I've spent so much time editing this footage. So I feel like I know you, but it's the first time you actually see me. So this is so bizarre.
Like I know her too. You watch her for 30 minutes with her kids at her house. I feel like I know her house, her too. I think that's so cool.
So
that style film. Yes, I know her.
If I could add one thing, and it's funny because I have Anais here, who's actually coming live from France. It's funny because this little story, and because I have a background as an editor, and you were asking about the hours, like how many hours, and do you pull it down? And I think that one of my sort of missions in sort of helping people understand really how documentaries are made and what the editor does in particular is that there's a kind of misunderstanding about that what the editor does is sort of just compile the best stuff and throw away that sort of expression. It winds up on the editing room floor is a little bit of a misleading thing. I learned once that, we know that in English, the word editing has the connotation of cutting down. We even say cutting, right? Who cut that film or whatever. But Anais, I believe this is correct. In French, the word is montage.
Oh.
And montage, which really more has a connotation of building up.
Yeah, put together.
And that is what any good film, but especially a good documentary will do. All of you who wrote feature films, you, for the most part, probably wrote it ahead of time, spent a lot of time doing the writing, and then you shoot that. Of course, you continue to work with it. But documentaries are a little bit backwards. You shoot it all, and the writing is actually in the editing process a little bit backwards, but you have to go with it with the same attitude that a good writer does, which is find the
Absolutely.
theme,
I agree with you. And I'm not even a technical person on the filmmaking side, but I will say an editor will make or break a film. And I'm just amazed with people that throw together a trailer. I'm like, how did you it's all someone's mind has to piece all these things together and make this great little another movie out of it. And so I think that's great.
And I would encourage people to watch our trailer, by the way. It is a little work of art unto itself that Anais cut. It is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Little 90-second thing. It's really poetry.
Exactly. Hey, Deb, what about challenges on your film?
So yeah, Dark Lights was difficult to make throughout. I was the writer, director, editor, DP, camera girl, VFX artist, colorist, and sound designer.
You were like Deb Richards. On the credits, it's just like Deb Richards.
Yeah, no, actually, I tried to avoid that because I hate that in film. So there were a lot of things that I did in the movie that I didn't take credit for just because it just looks silly in the. But yeah, I used to joke about the single hardest thing is usually scheduling, but seeing as it was mostly me, I was able to schedule myself. But some of the VFX were really difficult. I mean, there's a snow house, a house in the snow, farmhouse in the snow, and that was entirely CGI, and it only appears for 2 seconds on screen, but it took 3 months to do.
Gosh.
So,
yeah.
The whole short took nearly 3 years. So,
wow.
So it was just complex from beginning to end. But
did you ever at any point did you ever just be like, no, I give up?
Yeah. There were 2 more than 6 month breaks in that
okay.
because where I just lost my mind. And
it's good to walk away from it and revisit it and
yeah, absolutely. But the thing that I'm finding with making this feature that I'm doing is that the hardest part of it is constructing the business of it, because I went to film school and then I did many years of freelancing, and so I kind of learned my craft through those experiences, but neither of those prepare you for dealing with distribution or raising money through corporate sponsors or grants or federal tax incentives, or how to speak investor language to investors, or how to do pre-sales, or how to do all of that is so the last 3 months, I feel like I've just been working on the business, and which seems to me like nothing to do with the movie. And that's very difficult. And then the other thing that's difficult is being a writer, director, editor, is that I always feel that that there's no rock to cling on to. I'm the rock for everyone else.
Right.
And when I say to the team, what do you think? And they're like, oh, whatever.
Good job. Good job.
Yeah, but they're like, your idea is the idea. Let's go with that. And it's like, no, I need to be. I need someone else to cling on to. And when I reach out to people that have walked the path before me in the industry, they either have a singular paradigm that's based on their experience of how to do things, or they have a hidden agenda, or they're looking to get some kind of paid consultation out of it. So it's very hard because you always feel very alone, especially as a writer, director, editor, because you're alone at the beginning. You're alone most of the time, then everyone comes together to make it. and then you're alone editing it. So it's kind of like a lonely road, and managing the emotional roller coaster of the entire process for me currently is the hardest part.
Yeah. We're out of time, actually. The clock just, getting messages to wrap it up. Unfortunately, Ashton, I didn't get to ask you about the challenges, but I think I have an idea what they might have been. But
That's okay. There were, yeah. I think you can watch that movie and know.
Multiple in my mind. I was kind of like, darn. But I really enjoyed talking to all of you. I enjoyed all of your films for different reasons, and I love this film blog, and it was a pleasure to see you all here on Zoom. And that's all we have for today's program. And thank you all for coming.
Thank you for letting us in the festival. It's really an honor.
Yeah, I love this festival so much. It's my favorite. Everyone should submit here.
Oh man, we're gonna get you later on the camera saying that again. We recorded it here now, but thank you.
It was lovely to meet you all.
Nice meeting everybody. Yes. Congratulations to all of you.
Likewise.
Congrats, everyone. Thank you.